I think you can see my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
then. Yeah, thank you. So then welcome back to Human Behavior and Ethics lectures. We have only 2 more lectures to do. I think and I believe that you are working on your assignments. If you have any problem regarding your groups or assignments, please send me an email. Then I will get back to you to solve with the solution for your problem, right? Okay, with that, let's move to the today's lecture. So what we are going to discuss today, it's about the ethics and equity, right? So we have already discussed about the ethics, but today we are going to discuss more about this equity because this is very important word that we are using every day in workplaces, in university, in everywhere. We are discussing about this equity. It's not the equality, it's the equity. Okay, let's see what's this equity and why this is important and what kind of inequities that we have in our society. This is what we are going to discuss today, right? So the first we are going to define what is the equity, and then we should know what is the meaning of the equality and what is the social equity. Then we are going to identify 8 core social equity issues areas nowadays. Most of the social scientists, they are focusing on that. So then we are going to discuss about the PRSA Code of Ethics. Then finally, we are going to discuss about why this is important in your life. Right. So moving back to the ethics. Can you remember what is the meaning of the ethics? So we discuss about the meaning of the ethics. Can you remember what is the meaning of the ethics? So the meaning is here. You can read it again, right? So what is the meaning of the ethics? This is what we are going to systematizing and defending and recommending um, concepts of rights and wrong behavior. In the society, what we believe right and wrong behavior and how we going to take it into our system, how we are defending it, and how we are going to recommend the right and wrong behavior is someone is what is we call ethics. Then what is this equity? Equity is not the same as ethics, but there are some main things that we normally discuss at the equity. Anyone knows about equity? Do you know about the equity issues in the society?
It's like everyone being able to do the same thing. I mean,
Yeah, yes, very good. It's maybe like in your answer, what are the main points is the fairness and justice. Because if there's a able person, if there's a disabled person, differently able person, so we are going to provide fairness and justice for both of people to acquire some resources or maybe to do something. So we are helping them to adjust this imbalance. This is what we call equity. Right? But this equity is not the same as the equality. Because nowadays, most of the time, most of the feminist researchers, the scientists, they always think about this equality, right? So the man and maybe the female and male equality, not the equity. So anyway, there's a difference between this equity and equality. So we are going to discuss about this as well. Because the equality means providing the same to all. We are providing the same services, same resources to all, but we are not thinking about the differences of these people. But the equity means recognizing that we do not all start from the same place and we are going to acknowledge and make adjustment to these imbalances. Because in here, when it comes to equity, we always believe that there are differences. There are differences when it comes to the people. There are differences when it comes to their skills. And there are maybe sometimes how they can, their access to resources, there are differences. So in here, we are going to acknowledge these imbalances and acknowledge these, and we do some adjustments for these imbalances. This is what we call equity. Okay, going forward, okay, let's see what is this equity, inequity, and equality, and finally justice. You can see in this first picture, right? There's a tree. Let's say this is apple tree, right? Okay. Uh, the common example in Sri Lanka. Let's say this is a mango tree, right? There are mangoes in the tree, but this is bended into this side. You can see in this picture, left side it is bended, and you can see inequality here because that person this unequal access to opportunities. Because of this bend, almost all the mangoes are in the left side, but there are only few mangoes in the right side. The person who is in the right side, he has no opportunity to access mangoes, but that person has more access. This is what we call inequality, right? No equality in between people when it comes to access to resources. So then what is the equality? If we are going to make these two people in the same level, what we can do? So we are going to give evenly distributed tools and assistance. So these assistants and the rules are evenly distributed. Same. We are going to give them ladders to climb up and pick mangoes. But you can see here we have provided the same kind of ladders, but still that person who's in the right hand side, that person has no access to mangoes. Right? So this is equality, even though we provide support by giving the same kind of tools and assistance, still they have a problem of accessing these resources. Right? Therefore, when we are going to address equality issues in the society, still people they are suffering because they don't have access to some resources or they cannot do something even though they have given some resources, but they cannot do the given task or they don't have access. So then what the social scientists they thought, rather than going to solve these equality issues, inequality issues by providing the same kind of tools, what we can do, we can custom tools that identify that address the inequality, right? So we can provide, we customize the tools. Like in here, the ladder. Now you can see that ladder. The height of the ladder is different now. So we can give a more like maybe the very taller one for this right hand side person because then that person can pick mangoes. Right now both of them have access, but the given tools are different. So what we have to do in the equity, if we can see some inequities of accessing resources or doing something, so what we have to do is to provide support in different ways by identifying what they are lacking of. So then there's another word nowadays, social scientists, they are focusing on is the justice. Because when we comes to this equity, we always talk about the justice, right? So the justice means fixing the systems to offer equal access to both tools and opportunities. Right. In here, equality that we can do, but still that person cannot pick mangoes. So in the justice, what we can do, we can fix that tree. Right? If we can make this tree as the even distribution to both parties, then they can both of them can pick mangoes by using the same level of tools, same kind of tools. This is what we call justice. But in the equity, we always think about the justice. But in this equality, we are not thinking about the justice. We are just providing something, same kind of tools or assistance. Right? Okay, I think now you are clear about what is the meaning of the inequality, equity, equality, and justice. Is it clear now? Is it clear now? Do you have any problem regarding what is the meaning of this equity and equality and justice? Is it clear? Do you have more questions regarding this? Any questions? No, right. Okay, seems no questions. It's clear. Right. Now we are going to discuss about the social equity. This is very important because now we are talking about the society. So what is the social equity? In here, again, we are using the same kind of words, right? So this was given by the National Academy of Public Administration. They said the society of people or the people who are living in society, they should have access to all these services provided by the government. This is what we call social equity, right? For an example, let's say the definition, the fair and just and the equitable management of all institutions serving the public directly or by contract, and the fair and equitable distribution of public services, implementation of public policy, and commitment to promote fairness, justice, and equity in the formation of the public policy. Right? It's all about what government do. Government normally they do making public policy, and they are giving public services. They implement public policies. But the thing is, in some cases, some people, they don't have access to this. There's no equitable distribution of the public services. For an example, we can take the public transport system in Sri Lanka. It's a kind of public service. Do you think in all around the country, do they have equitable distribution of this public transportation? What do you think? Do we have fair treatment to everyone? What do you think? Do they have fair treatment? Everywhere in the world, in the country, do they have the same kind of public transportation system? Do they have? What do you think? You have to talk. Oh, right. Okay. What an answer. Let's see. No. Yes. Because when it comes to certain areas, we have highways, we have different types of maybe good roads, carpet roads. But when it comes to the rural areas, they don't have access to these services. So the problem is there's a high social inequity nowadays in the society because of this distribution of public services. But when it comes to social equity, we always talk about fair, just, and equitable management of all these institutions, serving the public directly or by contract, or maybe fair distribution of all these services, public policies to all institutions in the society. We talk about the social institutions, it may be a family, it may be a village, it may be a kind of society. So everyone should have the equal or the fair treatment. They should have the fair and just treatment, right? To access to these public services. This is what we call social equity. So then moving forward, we are going to discuss more about what is the difference between this equity and equality. Equality is the common thing that we are discussing about every day, right? So equality is providing the same level of opportunity and assistance to all segments of society, such as races, genders, and everyone, right? For when it comes to the male and female, right? If they need to go for the same position, we are providing the same level of opportunity and assistance to go and become a CEO. Then we can say there's no inequality issues in career development of the men and women. So then what is the equity? Equity is providing various levels of support and assistance depending on the specific needs or abilities. For an example, we can take the same example. So if we are helping men and women to become a CEO, so they need different types of assistance. For an example, so the men, they don't have the more family attachments, or let's say the more family works, but the woman, they have the more family works as a mother, as a housewife, so they have to do so many obligations to the family. If we can provide some assistance by providing daycare services inside the office, maybe some other assistance, through that we can help them to achieve and go and become a CEO. Right? This is how we are providing support and assistance in the various level, in the various ways, not in the same way. Right? So when it comes to the Civil Rights Act 1964, they provide the equality, but they are not thinking about the equity before, but in 1964, they also think about the equity is important than the equality, right? The equality is we can provide everyone support, but the problem is the people, those who are having different abilities, they cannot go and achieve the same task. They can go and achieve the same things. But if we are going to provide the equity, if we are helping in fair way, in different ways according to their abilities, so then they have the equal opportunity to go and access to resources and opportunities. Right? So then this is difference between equality and equity. Right? You can see the same kind of example. This is the equality. We are providing same kind of assistance. So when it comes to equity, we are providing different kind of assistance based on their abilities. Same thing, right? Okay, let's talk more about this equity and equality. So I have a small video. You can watch this video. Let me share sounds. Okay, let's see more about this social equity. What's it? Oh, it's not okay.
These days, we hear a lot of people using the word equity. But what does it really mean? It's not quite the same as equality, which means everybody gets treated the same. Equity is about fairness. It means that everybody gets what they need based on their own situation, because we're not all the same. The difference between equality and equity is important. It's part of the reason the United States spends more on healthcare per person than any other advanced nation and has much poorer health. It's important to remember that a person's health depends on many factors, things like their environment, schools, and workplaces, to name a few. We call these social determinants of health, like clean drinking water for children and easy access to fresh food. We can follow the lead of communities like Columbia Gorge in Washington and Oregon, where businesses, doctors, and farmers tackled the local hunger problem with the Veggie RX voucher program. And the New Jersey Partnership for Healthy Kids is bringing down high rates of obesity in underserved communities. We should be inspired by these local efforts and remember that health equity is all about making things better for all of us. When everyone's healthy, everyone benefits.
Yeah, this is the difference between equality and equity. Okay, I have a question. Equality, all are given opportunity, but the equity to achieve some goals kind of assistance is provided. Now, equality means we are giving the same kind of assistance, right? Same kind of assistance to everyone. We are not considering their differences. But equity, we are again providing assistance, but we are thinking about what kind of customized assistance everyone needed because they have different abilities. You need some kind of different assistance than other person. Likewise, we are giving customized assistance to everyone based on their abilities. This is what we call equity. Equality means we are giving the same kind of assistance. We are not even considering people's differences, their abilities. We are not thinking about anything. Same kind of things that we are providing. right? Okay, Dinesh, I think, is it clear now? Okay, right.
These
Sorry. Okay, now we are going to discuss about these 8 core social equity issues areas, right? According to the Cambridge Associates, so they have identified there are some 8 key issues when it comes to equity. So the first one, you can see there are the most important 2 things here in the world. The first one is the gender equity. The second one is the racial equity. This is because of the gender differences. This is because of the racial differences or maybe races. Right? Apart from these main 2, we have education equity. There are civil rights, civic practices equity, and there are equity in transportation. There are some equity issues in affordable housing. There are some equity issues in financial inclusion, and we have some equity issues in health and wellness. Right? If you can read some reports of the WHO, you can read more about the health and wellness equity issues. And if you can read more about these, maybe some UN reports, United Nations reports, you can read more about these 8 core social equity issues areas because they are always discussing about the education, civil rights, transportation, housing, and financial, sometimes gender and racial equity issues. You can read their reports and it's discuss about these equity issues. In here, I'm not going to discuss all 8 equity issues areas, but this is very important for your examination as well. Therefore, you have to do more reading regarding these 8 core social equity issues areas. Okay, we are going to start from one issue. One of the most important issue nowadays is about the education, right? So when it comes to education, it's not only about the university education, right? We can go and check the classrooms experiences of different people, like in different areas, how these childrens they are having access to the education, what kind of access they have, what kind of facilities they have. There's a problem. Do you think in Sri Lanka the children, school children, they have the equity in education? What do you think? What do you think? Do they have? Just compare rural school and school in a town, maybe in Colombo area. They don't have the same kind of facilities. They don't have same kind of access. So for an example, I can remember there was a kind of issue during COVID-19, even though government, they ask uh, schools to shift their physical education into online education. There were so many problems in the rural areas. The one problem is they don't have access to internet, right? Because they don't have network connection sometimes, they don't have this access. Another thing is they don't have devices to go and do their lectures online. They need at least a mobile phone. Most of them, they don't have access to mobile phones, and they don't have facilities to sit and listen to their lecturers or maybe teachers. In schools, they don't have facilities, they don't have knowledge regarding this technology, advanced technologies. So there were so many problems when it comes to shifting education from physical to online at that time. But still, our education system, it is not providing equity education, because you can go and check in the rural education, rural schools, they don't have good transportation, right? Some of them, they cannot go to school directly. They have to go through rivers. Sometimes they have to go through very dangerous areas because they don't have the reliable transportation. And some of them, they don't have a stable housing. Still, I can remember I worked with some NGO. It's a social movement organization. There was a social movement organization I worked with in the some rural area in Anuradhapura. So some children who came to these sessions, they said in the last night they were at the Chena, Chena, and there was a hut in on top of the tree. So it was their place at night because they had to live with their parents, because the parents, they had to take care of their Chena from elephants, right? Therefore, sometimes they don't have stable housing. And also in most of the schools in rural area, they don't have these nutritious foods for children. Rather than when we talking about this technology and other educational facilities, so these things also they don't have in their schools. So now what you guys have to do, so you have to discuss whether we have a comprehensive, sustainable, and truly transformative solution for that. This is the problem, right? This can be a kind of question in your question paper, in final question paper. Therefore, you have to discuss and find the solution for that. I will ask your answers in next week's lecture, if we have lectures in next week, because the convocation is going on next Monday. But anyway, let's see whether we have lectures. If we have lectures, I will ask the same question, right? You have to discuss whether we have a comprehensive, sustainable, and truly transformative solution to solve these inequity issues in education, right? So you have to discuss with your peers or your colleagues. Sometimes you can read more about this as well, right? It's about the education. Now we are going to discuss about the equity issues in the racial equity. When it comes to the races, in the racism, right? It's a barrier in education, it's a barrier in healthcare, it's a barrier in financial inclusion sometimes. In Sri Lanka, sometimes we don't have this issue much, but when it comes to America and other countries, those who are having these type of different types of racial people, even they can recognize races through their skin color, maybe black and white. Because of that, they have so many problems in the society. They don't have equal opportunity for some kind of, it may be for education. Sometimes they don't have equity in the healthcare. They don't have the equity in financial inclusion and many more. Okay, let's see how it is happening. So I have few examples here. The first one is the education. The second one is the poverty. Okay, you can go through these two graphs. These are some bar charts, right? Tell me what is the problem in this education and poverty in United States. This is from the America, right? Tell me what is the problem.
It's racism against like there is a division between black.
Mm. Yeah, it's the racism. Very good, right? What you identify is correct. It's the racism. You can say here when it comes to education, Black or African American, right? So this is regarding suspended from the school. How the school treated children, right? They are suspending children from the school. Majority they suspended from the Black or African American, the Black people. American Indian maybe 8, right? So we cannot see the white people here. It may be inside the 66% maybe, but the majority from the Black. It's the racism. And when it comes to poverty, right? When we take the poverty rates in this non-metro and metro, it's the metropolitan areas in America, right? They have metropolitan areas where they have higher population in the metropolitan areas, and these people are having the luxurious lifestyles, and they have non-metropolitan areas. It's just like rural areas, the low population density. It is the non-metropolitan areas. So anyway, when we take this metropolitan or non-metropolitan areas, so the higher poverty rates are from these Black American or Black or African American people, right? You can see here it's 34%, right? You can see here it's 34%, and also American Indian is 32%. So it says it's still they have this racism, and there are some equity issues because of the racism, right? Going beyond that, so when it comes to the criminal justice, so we are talking about justice and we are thinking, okay, each of everyone in the society, they have the justice, but no, they don't have. So when it comes to the United States again, so those who are having, so those who are jailed in this 1978 to 2014 period, majority are the Black people. It doesn't say the white people, they are always doing the right things. No. But how they are giving the justice, the criminal justice, is the majority Black people, they are in the jail. And when it comes to the health rates, so how they have, whether they have the access to the health, maybe the health care facilities, right? So the rates of new HIV diagnosis in as of 2016, right? The majority are Black because they don't have the equity in health. Sometimes these people, they don't have awareness, they don't have the facilities for healthcare facilities. Therefore, they have recognized the majority of the Black people diagnosed from the HIV, right? So you can see in these graphs, it says about the racial issues still exist in the world, especially in the United States. We can see the people, they are facing inequity because of the racism. Right? I think it's clear for you all. Okay, then we have to discuss about another core social equity issues areas. It's the gender equity. So when it comes to gender equity, it's very common thing in Asian countries, right? So we have a large pay gaps. Do you think that we have pay gaps? We have pay gaps. Still, the female wage labor is getting lower than the male wage earner, right? And also when it comes to some other, maybe some other salaries, so still we can see the pay gaps. And when it comes to the workplace cultures in these uh, South Asia, maybe Asia Pacific countries, we don't have the flexible workplace cultures. But if you go to Europe or any other countries like Western countries, they always have the flexible workplaces. But we don't have flexible workplaces. It's another issue because when it comes to gender, especially female, they are seeking for a flexible workplace cultures because they have to take care of their children, they have to go and work some home duties. Therefore, they need flexible work cultures. Another thing is when it comes to Sri Lanka, right, always the unemployment rates of the female is higher than the male. The male is having the lower unemployment rate than female. And also we have a gender gap in when it comes to employment, we have a gender gap. It always male are on labor force, but female are not. Even when they take the female, they have a kind of force in their labor when it comes to their working period. They have a force in between age of 25 to 35. The majority of the women, they are not working. Some of them, they are graduated, but they are still not working at the age in between 25 to 35. Because it's because of they normally get married and they have to take care of their children. Therefore, they are taking a pause in their workforce, or maybe in their workplaces. They are taking a pause and stay at home. Then again, they go back to work after 35 years old. Right? So we can see this gender equity, especially in Asia and Asia Pacific regions. Right? Because we all know the woman, they have to play many roles in homes than men. So the man, they have to just go work and then come back to the home, and they don't have much work as a woman. Therefore, we consider in Asian women, they are not contributing to the economy as considerable way because they have more works at home and they always try to stay at home. Right? It's because of the gender equity. If we can provide the maybe the things that they need, as an example, if we can provide daycare facilities inside offices, so then we can reduce these kind of gender gaps or maybe equity issues, right? So we have to provide some support, and then we can move them back to work, right? Still we can see then that gender inequity. Right. So it's about the major areas. I have discussed only 4 main areas, but there are many more other, like I have discussed 4 areas of the 8 social equity issues. You have to go to another 4 main areas and try to find out what are the equity issues in the society in these different 4 areas. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the ethics of equity when it comes to organizations. This is what we call the professional values, right? So these professional values, it is discussed by the PRSA Code of Ethics. You can go to this link. So it discusses about this document, right? So this is given by the Public Relations Society of America, PRSA. Therefore, we call it as the PRSA Code of Ethics. So they normally believe there are 6 main areas we have to consider as a professional. If you go and work in an organization, how you can maintain the equity and ethics in that organization, you have to maintain 6 main things with you. The first one is the honesty, right? You have to be honest, right? There are some highest standards of accuracy and truth when you are working, right? When you are communicating with public, when you are representing your organization, then you have to think about the highest standards of the accuracy and the truth, right? It is your honesty. Then the second one is the most important thing is the independence, right? So in here, when it comes to a professional, if you are developing your values, we have to provide counsel to maybe you have to do accountable, right? You have to do work independently, but you have to be accountable for your works. The next one is the expertise. If you are working in some areas, you have to be expertise, right? You have to be expertise in that area. So then you have to maintain credibility and relationship in this work, right? So the next one is the fairness. The fairness always comes with the equity, right? So if you are dealing with clients, employees, competitors, peers, or any more people, so you have to have a fair treatment to everyone. For an example, if we are using this PRSA cycle in this university, what we can do is sometimes we have to treat fairly all students rather than considering their gender, without considering their race. We have to treat everyone in a fair way. Fair treatment for students, fair treatment for other peers or other employees, or everyone we have to treat in a fair way. So the next one is the loyalty, right? If you are working in an organization, you have to be honored. You have some obligations to be loyal. And the last one is the advocacy. right? The advocacy is something like that. So you have to provide a voice in the marketplace of ideas, facts, and viewpoints, right? And sometimes you have to have some public debates, but you have to give the right information and fair treatment when you are doing the advocacy. And these are the 6 main areas they consider in this PRSA cycle, right? It's a kind of cycle, right? In that cycle, there are 6 main components. As if you are a member of the PRSA, then you have to sign the document. Then you have to act according to their ethics and equity. Right? If you are going through these 6 main core areas, it says you are having the professional values or professional ethics. And this is regarding the things that we discussed. What is the meaning of the loyalty and fairness and all those things, right? Okay, then. So when it comes to the equity, so it is not the word that we are using in the business world. Sometimes we are using this equity as a TED Talks. People, they are talking in conferences. People, they are talking in their workplaces about equity. But this is what we call as the golden rule, right? It is not something that we are using in businesses as a business word, but this is a golden rule because if we are using this equity, then we are treating everyone in a fair and justice way. Then everyone, they have access to every resource, every opportunity in the society. So the equity is also rooted in the one of the oldest and most widely known as the rule we lived by, the golden rule, right? Therefore, this is very old concept, but still this is very newest concept in the world because we can solve some societal problems if we are using this golden rule of the equity. Right? Okay, now what we are going to discuss about, oh, sorry. So now we are going to discuss about this, what is this accessibility equity, right? So accessibility means even though we have resources in the society, okay, let's say now we have roads, right? We have roads and we have many other public services, but the problem is whether everyone, they have the equitable access to these resources. This is the problem. Okay, in Sri Lanka, this is the pearl of India. We have so many resources in the country, but the problem is whether everyone inside this country, they have equitable access to this every resource. This is the problem. So therefore, we have to think about this, whether they have this accessibility. So we have roads, we have highways, but the people, those who are from rural areas, they don't have access to highways. Sometimes they don't have money to pay, they don't have their vehicles to go. Likewise, there are problems in equity or accessibility equity, right? So it always in everywhere, not only in Sri Lanka, in everywhere. So we can see these equity issues of the accessibility. Even we have resources, people, they don't have access. Right. So now, when it comes to the present day, or maybe in this contemporary world, we always talk about equity and inclusion. Inclusivity or the inclusion is one of the main or the newest concepts in the world. We are using it to treat people in a fair and justice way. You know, equity means, you know what is the meaning of the equality and equity now, right? If there are some person who's inaccessible to something, to provide the accessibility, what we can do is the equality, right? So in here, as I said earlier, everyone, they receive the same support regardless of their needs. We are not thinking about their needs. We are not thinking about their abilities. We are providing the same support. Then the second one, you can see the equity. Equity, if we are giving the equity, it's accommodation. Accommodation to take this accessibility. Individual given different support accommodation to enable access, right? We are providing different support. For that person, we are providing different support to see the match or maybe the scenery. So then the inclusion, the inclusivity is one of the another main thing. The inclusion or the inclusivity will provide the accessibility. So everyone has access. It means if we don't want to provide support, right? We don't want to accommodate anything, but we have to give the access to everyone, right? That's why we talk about this accessibility in equity. Even though we are given resources, sometimes it's very difficult for them to access this resource. But if we are providing the equity in the accessibility, providing equal chance for everyone to take this access to the resources, so then we don't want to provide any support. This is what we call inclusion, right? The people, they are having different abilities, they are different, but we are providing inclusion or inclusivity, then everyone has access, right? Okay, then we are going to talk about this equity matters in education. Do you think that we have equity matters in education, especially when it comes to university education, right? We talk about equity matters in the education earlier, but when it comes to this university education, still we can see these equity issues. Therefore, we are going to see more about this. Okay, let's see what has happened to that video. Just thinking about what has happened to this. Okay, wait a minute.
In the U.S., equality is an important principle.
Yeah, wait a minute. I will share this video.
So why isn't treating everyone equally always the right thing to do? The problem with equal treatment is that it doesn't always lead to equal results. Every plant needs sun and water, but that doesn't mean we should give all plants the same amount of sun and the same amount of water. A cactus needs a lot of sun and very little water to thrive. A tulip needs a moderate amount of both to produce a healthy bloom. A fern needs lots of water and just a little sun to grow big and bright. If you are planting a garden, you probably wouldn't place a cactus, a tulip, and a fern together and expect them all to thrive. But our classrooms are filled with students who all have different needs. By focusing on equitable treatment, we can consider those individual needs and then provide resources and support to meet them. That way, all students can thrive in school and life.
It says that we can provide, sorry, what has happened? Sorry. So in that video, they discuss about the equity in education, and also it's very important the inclusivity in education, right? Even though we are treating the students in different way by considering that they are maybe what they have and what they can do, right? But the problem is, wait a minute. Yeah, so if we are providing them different needs, but the problem is they don't have access. What we have to do now in most of the cases in university education, we are thinking about the inclusivity, right? You know, in some, I don't know whether we have some differently able students in this university at LGC, but in other universities, they have some quotas, like 20% or maybe 2% of this degree program we should provide for the differently able people, differently able students. I'm from University of Peradeniya. So in University of Peradeniya, we can see in every day there are differently able students there, right? And but they also have the access to education, access to sports, access to anything that they need to do in the university. They have access to anything, right? Therefore, even though we have equity issues, but we have to provide them the accessibility. The problem is we always think about the equality and equity, but we are not thinking about the accessibility. So it says we have to think about the inclusion and accessibility for everything that they need to do at university, right? Okay, then, yeah, I think the same video is here. So then, why is equity important in our life? What do you think? Why this is important in our life? Why this equity is important? What do you think? Is it important? Is it important? No, no, not important. I think it's important, right? Because one thing, if you know about the equity, then what we can do, we can decide how to distribute goods and services across the society. Because everyone, they should have the accessibility to these resources. And how you can deal with other people in the society, with the social institutions, how you can deal with, how you can move with social institutions. If you know the equity, then you can easily move with other people because you know what they need, what kind of support they need, what extent they need that support, right? Therefore, you can give support, you can help others, you can move with the societal institutions in a correct way, in an ethical way, and you can learn how to treat people in a fair and equitable way if you know about the equity, right? That's why you need to know about this equity. Okay, now you have an assignment. It's not the assessment. I'm not going to give you marks, but this is very important, right? I will, so you can do this, right, you can do this assignment as a take-home assessment. Then I will create a link at LMS. I'm not going to give marks, but those who write these, you can upload it into the LMS, right? There are two questions I have provided here. The first question discuss why equity is important to your life as a university undergraduate, right? How this equity is important and why, right? So you have to write it down, your answer as an essay answer, right? So the second question, you have to discuss the strategies to enhance ethics and equity inside SLGC Research University, right? So if you feel like that there are existing practices at university where it not provide the equity and ethics for students, you can give some suggestions for the improvements, right? So you have to write the answers for these two questions because this is very important for your final examination as well, right? Uh, so you can write answer. I'm not going to correct and give it back to you. But anyway, if you wish to upload the answer, then I will create a link at LMS. I'm not going to give any marks for this, right? No marks for this assessment, but it's better if you discuss, if you find answer and write it, right? Because the questions come for your final examination is like this. It's not something like, okay, you have to mention 5 strategies, 5 things that we discuss in the class. It's not like that. You have to think and write, right? Because those are social issues. We discuss about the society and social issues. So you have to think and write. So now you have to write these two the answers for these two questions, right? After this lecture, you can take time. You have to write answers and then you can upload answers into LMS. I'm not going to give marks, but it's better if you write answers. So the one thing you then know what is the answer. So other thing, you will find some facts to prove your answer and you do some self readings. Another thing is you will practice how to write answers for your final examination. Right? Okay, this is for you all to do. This is self assignment. Right, that's all about the ethics and equity. Do you have any questions regarding today's lecture? Any questions? Anything you need to clarify? Even about lecture or your assignments, assignment group, or anything? No questions. Okay. Did you start your assignments? What's the progress of your assignments? Have you started it? Are you working on that? Okay. Yeah, the end exam is open book examination. It's open book examination, but don't think that I'm going to give the questions inside these lecture notes, right? It's not something like that we discuss in the lecture notes, but anyway, you can refer lecture notes and then finally you have to think and write. You have to think and write, right? You have to read more. You should know about what is happening in your society because this is very applicable. This is not very theoretical lectures, theoretical subject. This is very applicable subject to your life and society. Therefore, you should know what's happening in the society. Any questions? Any questions? No questions other than examination paper. So I believe that you are working on your assignments, right? So there are no extensions for assignments. You have to submit it on time. So you can mark attendance now. Right, okay. If you don't have any questions, so you have to write answers for those two questions I have given, right? With a practice question for your examination, and also you should know answer. Uh, right, you can upload your answers to LMS. I will create the link in LMS. So those who mark attendance, you can leave. Thank you very much for joining. I think we don't have lectures on the coming week. I don't know exactly. University will inform you whether we have lectures or not, right? So then thank you so much and have a nice day. Do you need more time? Do you need more time to mark attendance? Anyone need more time to mark attendance? UG, no, engineering 338. Did you mark your attendance? I think examination is physical. Examination is a physical examination. Okay, I will mark your attendance, right? No problem. 338. No mid-examination. Now we do not need mid-examination. The only the assessment that you have in this module is your continuous assessment 1 and 2, what I have already given, and there's a quiz in LMS. I will let you know when it is appear. So then final examination, that's it. No any mid-examination. Okay, any other questions? Do you need more time to mark attendance? Okay, then thank you so much and have a nice day.
Thank you, Miss. Have a nice day.